Today's been fun. I've been doing a lot of debugging, and I pretty much got all my models to build again. A lot of the problem has been that I discovered that different image sizes, when opened up in the other program, that program looks for data in different positions based on what the image size is. And that sent me down a pretty deep rabbit hole trying to fix the problem and breaking things along the way. In fact, I had to pull myself out and create another branch and kind of move forward while still looking at some of the changes I made on the other branch. And it was just very tedious. Part of that is I've got these um, just some debug dialogue in a sense saying here are the XY coordinates that are actually in the image that were read. And then the other one is this is saying for all the indexes, this is the rows and columns that are mapped with that index. So I read an XY position to see if it's a valid pixel. Then I use that index and map that to a row and a column. And then I can use rows and columns to get back to the original data that is represented there. It's just part of a circle of translating, pulling information from the image and then putting information back into the image. With all that said, there are some features and they're a little debuggy at the moment. But you'll notice that my UFO is fairly colorful, and this is because I create something called a density map. It tells me which faces are very small and which faces are very large. So if I go and let me create, okay. So let me rotate this texture because they're not exactly correct. And then I will rotate this guy and make him a little bit smaller. Okay, so that's my UFO. You can notice all the red area at the top. That is where the very small, tiny faces are. And then the blue down here seems to be where the larger faces are. This light blue one seems to be the largest of them all. And then I would have thought that the dark blue would have been the largest because that's the farthest on the hue and saturation scale. But I could be wrong. You'll notice I can do alpha textures now. That's another thing. I turned on the transparency to be on all the time, not just when the opacity is down a little bit. But yeah. The other thing I did was I added these model data textures. Something's not right. Let's go back to the wall, go back to the UFO. Now it's the model data texture. Okay. Now you'll notice the colors don't line up. The model data is pretty much the original data from, or the current data from the image mapped to the UFO. The texture doesn't line up because it has to be flipped and rotated. There we go. Now all the pink dots are with all the pink dots, the yellows are with the yellows, the blues are with the blues. And so that's the data of your model represented as a texture. And then if I go to, I want to see the square or the cube. There we go. And I want to see the density map because these should be fairly uniform. Let's go back. I have to keep switching the models to get the correct map to show. So it is buggy. So I have to flip this, rotate that, There we go. That's more like what I wanted to see. So you can see it's mostly uniform. It's mostly green. And then at the top, it slowly gets to red as it gets very, very dense. Same down here, very, very dense. And then you'll see this hard change to blue. That's because between this median average size to the largest size, there's not really that many triangles in between. So that's why it has a hard cut to blue there. I didn't do a gradual size difference because I wanted to really outline. I want to see this hard cut, and I didn't realize what it was when I was first looking at it, but that was intentional. There is code I put in there just so that that would happen. It's nice that that actually shows up. All right, so yeah, that's about everything that's happened. Oh, and a throttling. I did add debounce, and then I realized I needed throttling. Basically, my frames just went down. They were at 60. Now they're still at 60. This wasn't at 60 before. Maybe it was because I was looking at the UFO. Yeah, the UFO seems to have more of an impact here. So the UFO is down to like 50, 50 frames per second during the updates. That is quite interesting why the UFO would do that and not... Oh, I know why. It's the larger image. So the UFO image size is 128 by 128 pixels, and the cube is 64. So it's a quarter of the size. So, okay, that is good to know. Man. All right, so we're learning stuff. We are constantly learning stuff. But the throttling had to be put into place because instead of calling it with every render to update this image here, I wanted to make sure the image is only updated like once every half second or 1 second. It's either half a second or a second right now. It's probably half second. It looks pretty fast. I could slow it down more, but then it looks choppy, but it's not that bad. It just feels like the program itself is slow if I do that, which I don't want to give the impression that the program is slow or having any issue. Yeah, and that's it. That's all. That's everything.